Hey, what is going on, YouTube? Hey, Aaron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. And happy update day. Oh, what a glorious Monday it has been. Sarcasm intended. But today we are in the Hizen, the newest campaign ship to come to World of Warships Legends of the Japanese variety. This thing is basically a Japanese Kansas. Now, most of you know, but some of you might not, that she was available in the previous update or the update before for, in a rental form. And they actually buffed her from that form. She got a slight increase to grouping, I do believe, as well as reload and speed of her ship. That being said, I still think she's pretty mediocre, which is good. Good players will be good, bad players will be bad, but she does have 12 410 millimeter guns, as well as a pretty chunky armor profile. So if you're not caught completely broadside, you will be okay. But we were in this game today. We got recognized by a few people, hence the patch change, as I was told that will help decrease our notoriety. It has not really worked. I feel like a sorority girl at a bar on a Friday night asking for all this attention. No, I'm just kidding. I hope you guys got that one. But we tried to go incognito here. I know most of you probably know about incognito mode, at least of the my Azure Lane enjoyers. I know you guys do. No, I'm just kidding. But this game highlights a lot of the strengths as well as a few of the weaknesses of the Hizen, and it was honestly the best game I got this morning, so this is the one that is, of course, going to be, put on the YouTubes. Sorry if there's a little bit of an echo. We did have to change offices today. Research department here at work decided that they're going to just redo everything, and the other office or open space is under construction. But without further ado, we have the first shot of the game, and it is a beauty, a broadside Azuma. We pop the accuracy plane. And yeah, decent grouping at range. This thing is definitely going to be a little bit of a sniper. You couple that with the armor scheme, and yeah, a 20k salvo. Only 3 of those shells hit, but the Azuma actually did turn in, which I thought he would have turned out, so we put that shot high, and the few floaters that went low ended up being the shells that hit. Here, though, we stopped and turned in, if you'll notice. That's that right rudder there, which was coming off. And that is when the Buffalo decides to go broadside. No idea why heavy cruisers are going broadside to battleships, but we didn't lead that one quite as well as I wished, and another 3 shell hits, with one of those being a Citadel. So right off the bat, we've gotten 40,000 damage. No legendary mod or reload mod on this specific build, and that is when Arabuki decides to give the classic 2-minute and 30-second game, as well as the anchorage. So right off the rip, we are down 2 cruisers. And yes, we know it's update day, but I wish you guys would just live a little bit longer. The good news is that leaves more damage for us. We just have to make sure we position our ships correctly, at which point I look at the minimap and realize absolutely none of our teammates are doing that. The Albemarle, which pinged me in the beginning of the game, actually did position his ship moderately well behind that island there on B. Unfortunately, the 3 battleships which spawned on the right are all coming this way now, so we either have to push through A, which was my initial thought, or turn back. Not every game, as we've said so many times, is going to go exactly according to plan, but if you refuse to adapt to the circumstances of the game, then you will fall victim to those circumstances. For example, ideally I would like those battleships not to be, a group of silly geese and come our way. I would like for them to stay on their flank, but they didn't, right? As we take a pretty risky broadside. I believe that was from the Azuma. That was actually a good shot from him. I didn't see that coming. We've had a few of those this morning, mainly in the Duncan, and the Duncan is a fun ship. That is the British battlecruiser of the Tier 8 variety, but she is, boy, is she squishy. But here, because of the smokescreen and that Ruprecht, we are going to go ahead and hold this shot for just a moment. Why? Well, to wait for what the Ruprecht does exactly. We figured he was going to make a turn broadside. Now, we can actually overmatch his bow, but I'd much rather get a shot broadside. We probably threw that one a little high. A few overpens there, as well as a few penetrations, but he will go down, and that is when we spot the Kagero. So we're going to go ahead and try and push in here. This Hesiang pinged me, and he actually was kind of playing around me and off of me, which is so beautiful to see. Regardless if I'm a CC or not, or if you see your favorite YouTuber or whatever in the game, whatever ship you're in, you should try and play off of your team. Like we were mentioning earlier, our 3 battleships did not. They actually come back and get a pretty good score, so it all works out in the end. But you can see that this Marlboro is behind me, full health. For what reason? He probably hasn't shot his guns but 2 times, and we've let the C cap fall as a result. So just something to keep in mind. Try and play the side you spawn on. On top of that, do as this Hizen did and support your team. Now, I know you're looking at the scoreboard, and as I did, you're probably thinking this game is over. Well, not when Aaron has something to say about it. Now, I will say the enemy team did not really press their advantages, and what we mean by that is if these ships would have pressed through C and gotten our broadsides, or even through B and gotten our backsides here, we would be in trouble. But we actually take a pretty nice salvo on that Azuma, only getting a few overpens, but we know that we can overmatch him. And of course the sweet torp dodge, and that is when we spot the Kagero. I probably could have had the HE loaded knowing we were pressing this destroyer, but the Hesiang moves in, gets him spotted. The Kagero, I think, was either out of smoke or not running the smoke. I don't exactly know. We switched to the HE, but it doesn't matter. We get the finishing touch as he did the Hesiang, and I think another salvo from somebody else did a beautiful job of eliminating him, and we got the finishing touch for the kill there. That is when we decide to work our way back into the capture point here. That Azuma is playing it smart, and also at the same time, we're noticing that our team has done the unthinkable and allow us to get flanked. We actually put out that single fire as we did go undetected, and it almost cost us. I never recommend putting out a single fire unless you know you're going to be concealed like this, and there is a great reason why. If that torpedo would have hit, we probably would have had a frustrating controller throw, as well as a very short game. That probably would have killed us or at least ticked us down to very low health. Just another reason to never put out a single fire. But here is a perfect shot for my fellow hunters out there. We put the shells where we thought he was going to be, not where he was at the time. Pumping the border like that defies the laws of physics, but once you've seen it after a few times, you know where those players are probably going to be, and we get the elimination on that Buffalo. Here is another example. RNGesus is telling me not to ever put out a single fire ever again. We were actually spotted for a brief moment in time, either by a plane or I think we were surface detected by that Buffalo, and that Azuma put us on fire once again. He did not like us citadeling him on that opening salvo. Here we're just trying to defend our weak side. Like we mentioned, our 3 battleships gave up massive advantages, and they are still not realizing it, because they were pushing through A still. Now, of course, we do need to eliminate that Azuma to kind of clear out that flank, make sure we keep that cap. But sending all of our forces to 1 cruiser is just not the way to play. As you can see, there's, 5 ships on this flank, a Tirpitz, another battleship, or at least 4. And that battleship actually just got the Congress. So 4 as of now, it was a total of 5. Basically, just think of, evening out your forces, playing that zone defense. You don't want to send 9 people to one side. Here, though, we decide to use one of our other accuracy planes on a broadside Richelieu. And this thing, while it's not the hardest hitting, when you can get shots like that with the amount of guns you have, you're always going to be getting those chunky penetrations. I feel like we should have gotten some more accurate salvos, especially on some different games this morning. But we have gotten a few dev strikes, one of which actually threw the bow on Nabuki. So that vertical dispersion, which is a little bit worse on the Japanese, does help when you're climbing those shots. It's not the best on broadside shots, as you see here, but again, just utilizing all of the tools in your tool belt and kind of knowing the quirks of each ship, you will do fine. Here is an example of angling, that armor belt as we get a few more overpens and a few penetrations. We have chunked that Richelieu pretty good, but even with angle, we're still taking those chunky penetrations. The armor is pretty good on this thing, but it is not the best. With the amount of orange and red in the armor viewer, and we will of course go over that, I feel like I should be bouncing more shots than we actually do, with the exception of the Musashi or Yamato, obviously, and that egregious overmatch. But once we go over the armor, you'll kind of understand what I'm saying here. I feel like she should be a lot more tanky, and she is, like we mentioned, with the exception of getting, caught broadside, and she actually does even have a little bit of a turtleback as well, so you are moderately protected at close range, but it's not like a full German turtleback. But yeah, here again, just by angling, we're kind of putting ourselves in the apex or the very diagonal portion of that ellipse, and that's allowing a lot of these shells to kind of land on either side of our boat. So just something, a little, like we talked about, little tips and tricks to help you become a better player. On top of that, we are reducing angle when kiting like this. One thing that is good about this boat is the kiting angles. On top of the kiting angles, the forward angles are actually pretty gnarly as well. I think she has the best forward angles of any battleship in the game. So you combine that with decent positioning here, as well as appropriate ammo selection. And here we probably could have used the AP, but that Richelieu did put out, I think it was a double fire. So we're trying to get that finishing fire, to just get her off the board. But unfortunately, we don't get RNG to go our way in this situation. We do get a few penetrations with that HE though, and we do actually tick the high caliber, which is always nice getting that fancy participation high caliber trophy, but we want the win. And if you'll notice the scoreboard, we are still down on points. That is also when I noticed that the Richelieu is heading for our Hizen. He is making somewhat of an intelligent play, rushing the smoke screen of a destroyer. Battleship players, for whatever reason, are just terrified of pushing destroyers in their smoke, and destroyer players tend to get caught. Now, our Hizen does the smart thing and actually gets the finishing flesh wound on the Richelieu, so it does even out the trade there, but again, we're still down on points. We need to either get into the Bravo cap or get the finishing kill on this Richelieu, or find a way to kill that Musashi. So I'm going to continue out on this flank here. We can see that our two battleships, which spawned at sea, are now have made their way to A and now have to make their way back to where they abandoned, but they are full health in the meantime. So it's like we won, but we did it the difficult way. So just trying to make the game a little bit easier for a lot of those players, but this is why we do this. I hope it helps at least some of you. I appreciate the nice comments when people are like, yeah, it has helped, and then the other ones were like, you suck, but welcome to the internet. But in the meantime, again, we're searching out this Richelieu, and at about this time, that is when the Musashi gets spotted in Bravo. There he is. So we have a decision to make. Do we shoot at him? We do love shooting at broadside targets. Now, for some reason, I don't wait here, but it also feels like the pen on these shells is not a lot, but it's probably just because I'm not exactly hitting where I want to. The Musashi actually stopped. We should have waited. We get a few overpins on his bow, but nothing worthwhile. That is when the Richelieu decides to take a shot at us, and we're kind of caught in a sticky situation here. Of course, we could bow take the Richelieu, but that puts us broadside to this Musashi. But seeing as how our two teammates are kind of charging him, we're going to try and get the finishing kill on this Richelieu. We also peeked at the Musashi's guns, and he was not looking. That is when the Richelieu decides to do something a little precarious, as my teammates actually did throw a few shots his way. He decides to turn broadside, and here's where we actually get a nice penetration for the finishing kill and Citadel on that Richelieu. So the pen argument is probably solved, considering we got a Citadel on a French battleship, but a nice damage total so far. The Musashi switched towards us, but we hit the brakes, and he flew right by, so a little bit of dodging. He probably used auto-aim, considering he probably spent $100 buying his way to tier 8. No, I'm just kidding. But by changing direction and playing with your throttle, you can dodge a few of those salvos. If if he had shot or caught us a little bit sooner, it may have been a different story, but we took care of the Richelieu, we dodged the shot, and we're good to go here. So we are up on points, but now we need to either assure a trade or, not die. One of those two things in order to get the win. On top of that, we are contesting the Bravo cap, so the points are basically even, with us having the A cap and them having the C cap. On top of that, you will see we've got the final battleships just kind of sitting in C there for whatever reason. No idea what has taken him so long, but we actually find out that it is a Tirpitz B, so he may have purchased his way to tier 7 as this Musashi may have purchased his way to tier 8. We don't know, and of course, it's fun to say the whales and the wallet warriors, but they did their job with the exception of this Tirpitz, and I'm going to be honest, the game ends here. I'm going to go ahead and speed it up, and this Tirpitz is actually backing up. No idea. Maybe he had, disconnected or something. Give him the benefit of the doubt. But if he was actively at the controller, I would suggest moving your German battleship forward. We shoot here in order to, try and get the, see if he's in our ring, and he's not even in our firing ring. But that's basically the game. We'll go ahead and speed it up, like I said. So yeah, probably a frustrating finish for the red team, but a good victory for the blue team. So a shout out to those lads who recognized me, as well as to this fellow Richelieu here, who got a pretty nice score in second place. 2930 there, XP. The new menu screen, I like it, 185,000 damage. You can see the commander we're running as well as the boat as well. But there we go, 2930 with 3 kills, high caliber, and the first place finish there. As well as, a few decent team scores. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the way this kind of looks, but it's similar to PC now, and I'm guessing that they're, kind of optimizing for the switch to mobile. But here is our economy page. I don't really show that too often, but with premium and a little booster there, 300,000 silver, XP, and of course global, and then commander. So yeah, there's the economy page as well as the missions tab with that is new to this update. But let's go ahead and review the upgrades that we put on the boat there. Aiming systems, propulsion, concealment, and the reload modification. That's just what I normally run on most of my boats. It's kind of boat specific, but on battleships, it's 90% of them with the exception of like my secondary battleships. This is it. Let's go ahead and review the stats. 75,900. The artillery, 4x3 rather, 410 millimeter guns with a 30.1 reload with that reload mod and a 19.3 range. A 72 overall AA defense, which that number really means nothing. Maneuverability is 29.9 top speed. I think we have a flag on there with a nice turning circle of 880 and a rudder shift of 18. 13.3 concealment there, detection by sea with the concealment mod. We had a pretty decent morning in her. A few of those I think are the rental stats. And here is the armor. A 32 millimeter bow protecting your front, and as you can see, we've got a little bit of a cheek there, and she's pretty chunky. A lot of red and a lot of orange overall, with that slight turtleback for the Citadel. So if you're angling and you're protected, or not, completely flat broadside to a heavy caliber battleship, then you should be protected in your Citadel. So but as a counter, you guys saw when we were angled, we were getting chunked in a lot of places, and 4, 5, 6 full penetrations with 2 and 3 4,000 damage apiece. That's 20k per salvo. So you definitely don't want to be caught not completely angled most of the time. But a pretty protected deck, you will get spammed. There is a decent superstructure there, and of course the pure battleship mains will always complain about the spam, but a pretty chunky ship overall with a moderately protected Citadel. Like we mentioned, she does have a little bit of a cheek that you can access from the front, really only if you're Yamato or you get a nice angle there on the front, but she does have a little bit of a cheek as well. I didn't completely go over my commander guide in this video, but you guys saw it on the little menu screen there, which is nice. And you can see it there. It is Takeo Takagi with basically a full accuracy build and fight fire with fire. I didn't run Yamato, the new Azure Link commander. This is more of a free-to-play commander build, and I'll try and go over it in more detail later, but that is the base build if you want to pause the video there. There is the overview screen, big guns, guns aplenty, and reluctant gunnery, below average main battery reload speed. 30 seconds is, I guess, pretty average, but there's a nice view of it. I hope you guys enjoyed that review. That is the Hizen. I always recommend getting the campaign. The resources are valuable, but nothing that you should be buying out day one. That's the review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a great day. I'll see you guys tonight on stream. Aaron out. Peace.